Hello friends, welcome to lesson 42, Education, Urban Planning and Development. Part A, Objectives. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to comprehend the trends in urban planning for education. You will be able to understand the role of higher education and universities in urban planning and development, and also analyze the role of studying abroad in urban planning and development. Education has the potential to improve economic opportunity and lead to upward social mobility and development. Education is a key factor in shaping the future of cities and their residents, and urban planners have a crucial role in ensuring that educational opportunities are accessible, inclusive and innovative. Education must be viewed as an important intermediary for capitalizing on physical, intellectual and social capital available in cities. There needs to be more appreciation of education's role in transformative urban development and stronger advocacy by education stakeholders to exercise more influence in the urban future debates. Edward Glaser famously argued in his 2011 book that cities are man's greatest invention, which made us richer, smarter, greener, healthier and also happier. The key challenge in studying the relationship between urban residency and educational attainment comes from the fact that households do not randomly select into cities and rural environments. We know from previous research that households who move to cities are typically better educated and have higher cognitive ability, which has been proven by different research works. As such, we would expect the children of households who choose to live in an urban environment to have better educational outcomes as well, regardless of where they live. There are vast educational inequalities which exist globally and locally. An observation by UN Habitat report of 2009 states that in the real world, most urban development has not kept pace with the desired objectives of sustainable development. It is the reason why there are protests on the right to the city. The gleaming skyscrapers or gated communities next to slums and find dangerous levels of congestion, pollution and urban infrastructure growth globally. Education plays a role in reducing urban inequalities. To facilitate this, it is important to ensure that city works for all. This necessitates how we plan cities and make urban planning processes more inclusive through technology and knowledge-based participation. Various socio-spatial patterns such as gentrification, slums, urban sprawl, housing, discrimination and migrant regions separate residents in terms of wealth, access and also privileges. Local and national governments have limitations in providing education for slum children, leading to a rise of private schools catering to the poor, thus increasing the financial burden of the most vulnerable. While cities are knowledge economies that value human capital, the rewards of knowledge economies disproportionately accrue to the highly skilled, leaving behind the mass of informal and middle skilled workers. To improve the existing urban planning to practices, there needs to be a focus on improving professional, multidisciplinary, socially relevant competencies through education. There is a need to expand planning capacity, especially in developing countries. One of the trends in urban planning for education is the integration of educational facilities with the other land uses such as housing, retail, office or recreation. Let us discuss some other trends in this regard. With regard to technology and innovation, incorporation of technology and innovation into the design and delivery of education can be an instrumental factor. Technology can enhance the learning experience and outcomes for students and teachers by providing access to information, communication and feedback, as well as enabling new forms of interaction, engagement and assessment. Many cities have tried to involve citizens in improving the public service delivery using information and communication technologies or participatory budgeting. However, these schemes will not be effective unless those who really need to voice their concerns are literate and are able to engage in these processes. The most common challenges to the implementation of e-government initiatives include issues of language, literacy, human capacity, infrastructure, legal frameworks and internet access. Innovation, knowledge and technology transfer are important catalysts for development resulting from the location of universities in the city. Scientists and university staff also fulfill their role in the social context as the voice of the bright, informed and experienced citizens. Their expertise can be of help to a city seeking the best solutions for its citizens when developing programs, policies and other strategic documents. Actions taken freely by campuses and university centers in the area of sustainability can also inspire other stakeholders in the city and thus even the ruling power. Flexible and adaptable spaces. Another trend in urban planning for education is the design of flexible and adaptable spaces that can accommodate different learning styles, needs and activities. These spaces can be transformed or reconfigured according to the changing demands and preferences of the learners as well as educators, allowing for more creativity, collaboration and also personalization. Community engagement and participation. Urban planning for education is the involvement of community in the planning and implementation of educational projects and initiatives. Community engagement and participation can foster a sense of ownership, identity and belongingness among the stakeholders as well as generate feedback, input and support for the educational goals and initiatives. There are several cases across the world, one being in the case of Medellin, Colombia's urban transformation from one of the world's most violent cities to one of its most innovative, which was based on an education-led social change strategy. Fajardo became the mayor in 2004 and began problem solving the challenge through the strategy. Medellin La Mas Educada, the most educated. To reduce inequality, they decided to focus on improving public education to transform society. With an emphasis on social interaction and inclusion, the city developed a library network to bring education to its marginalized communities, together with the metro cable system that dramatically improved urban mobility for the poor. The substantial financing needed for education was provided by the Medellin Public Utilities Company. As a result of the city reforms, there was a dramatic reduction in crime and violence in vulnerable neighborhoods as well. It is one of the very encouraging examples. Equity and diversity. Urban planning for education is the promotion of equity and diversity in the access and quality of education for all the urban residents. Equity and diversity can address the challenges and gaps that exist in the urban education system, such as segregation, inequality or exclusion, and ensure that all learners can achieve their potential and participate in the development of urban societies. Sustainability and resilience. The integration of sustainability and resilience into vision and values of urban education can be one of the pillars of urban development. Sustainability and resilience can enhance the environmental and social performance of urban education by reducing the ecological footprint, increasing the resource efficiency and improving the adaptability and also the responsiveness of the education system. The changing individual environmental footprints is one of the most problematic challenges that the world faces today. The wealthy and urban populations of the world consume most of its consumer goods and are responsible for most of its waste generation as well. The culture of consumption encourages people to express themselves through material goods. While there are some attempts to redefine prosperity in non-material terms, there is a lack of evidence in this regard. The city policies and education efforts to reduce waste production and lower consumption cannot have a substantial impact without a fundamental change in the modern economic functioning. Education is an essential component of urban development. It can help address educational inequalities and spatial disparities while also contribute to sustainable urban development. Urban planning can play a significant role in improving the access to education. Urban planners can use their expertise to identify areas with inadequate educational facilities and develop strategies to improve access to education. Urban planners can help create safe and healthy environments for the learners by designing educational institutions that are energy efficient, have good indoor air quality and are located away from the sources of pollution. Overall, urban planning can help improve access to education by identifying areas with inadequate educational facilities, ensuring that schools are in easy accessible areas and creating safe and healthy environments for the students or the learners. Some of the illustrations of urban planning strategies that can improve access to education include location modeling, transportation systems, etc. Urban planners can use location models to identify the areas with inadequate educational facilities and develop strategies to improve access to education. They can also design transportation systems that connect educational institutions with residential areas and other important services. Urban planners can engage with local communities to identify their needs and preferences for educational facilities. This can help ensure that they are designed to meet the specific needs of the community. Further, urban planners can design educational institutions with green spaces such as gardens and parks. Studies have shown that green spaces can improve the learner's performance and well-being. Universities have specialized infrastructure and human resources that are difficult to provide by other means with resources that local authorities often have at their disposal. For this reason, these organizations can be considered important assets in urban development strategies. The mobilization of their facilities, researchers and graduates can become an advantage in the transformation of urban environments. However, studies on the impacts of the university are weakly connected to urban development studies. The declaration from the second UNESCO Conference on Higher Education held in Paris July 2009 stated explicitly that higher education has the social responsibility to advance our understanding of multifaceted issues and our ability to respond to them. Through its core missions of teaching, research and service, it should lead society in generating global knowledge and address global challenges like food security, climate change, intercultural dialogue, renewable energy, etc. In the document entitled Guidelines for Prospering Social Responsibility and Community Engagement in Higher Education Institutions in India, formulated by UGC, the goals of fostering social responsibility and community engagement in higher education institutions has been presented. It comprises of these aspects: improving the quality of teaching learning in higher education institutions by bridging the gap between theory and practice through community engagement, promoting deeper interactions between higher education institutions and local communities for identification and solution of the real life problems faced by the communities in a spirit of mutual benefit. Facilitating partnerships between local communities and institutions of higher education so that the students and teachers can learn from local knowledge and wisdom. Engaging higher education institutions with local communities in order to make curriculum, courses and pedagogies more appropriate to achieve the goals of the national development. Catalyzing acquisition of values of public service and active citizenship among students and youth, which would also encourage, nurture and harness the natural idealism of youth. Further, undertaking research projects in partnerships with local community through community-based research methods. There is significant literature to suggest that universities' primary role is to deliver higher education and routes into gainful employment for their increasingly high fee paying students. There are questions why they should take on the job of regenerating cities. The key drivers for university development are lack of space, competition with other institutions to attract and retain the best staff and students, and the need to generate diverse additional income streams, especially through research, translation and professional training opportunities. Effective spatial development which generates a healthy relationship with surrounding urban areas and communities and other urban agents like municipalities, civic sector is increasingly recognized by higher education institutions as fundamental to achieving all these goals. Higher education institutions constitute a center that is innovative in terms of new technologies and modern solutions that allow the city to develop both infrastructurally and socially in a sustainable way. Important factors influencing development and integrated planning in urban areas is the creation of human capital. The quality of human capital is closely related to universities. It is an important factor influencing local development also. Since the final product of education, that is qualified graduates of universities, positively influences the situation on the local labor market, they become specialists who, while employed in a city, may create sometimes innovative and useful solutions in the field of urban planning, intelligent energy management or mobility. They are well acquainted with the local context, are aware of the needs of the people and the possibilities of the city, and at the same time the knowledge they have acquired during their education enables them to approach the diverse concerns in a rational manner. Well-known historian Thomas Bender has compared urban universities to immigrant neighborhoods in US cities. The residents live both in local place and in a translocal diasporic culture, at the same time grounded while globally connected. From this perspective, universities need to develop a long-term view of how they nurture and evolve those everyday interactions as embedded urban actors. the actors with a commitment to increasing the positive social impacts of their property assets. This requires effective mechanism and communication both within and beyond the institution. Higher education institutions have a strong presence in urban areas in spatial, economic, political and social ones. In fact, in many cities they are recognized as important catalysts of social transformation in environments marked by social deprivation or economic stagnation. Similarly, they often exert an important influence on local and regional policy agendas when urban revitalization strategies are being formulated. However, these issues have been addressed gradually from different perspectives of distinct fields of study, making it difficult to frame public practice in order to exploit the university's potential. The main research streams have generally emerged from within knowledge communities with different professional backgrounds, sociologists and evolutionary economists on one hand and geographers and urban planners on the other. Each focus on specific issues. In the field of innovation and higher education studies, both public policy and specialized literature are divided into two groups representing different visions. The economic role of the university as a force of development, mainly through business innovation, and the social role of the university related to community services and civic engagement. There is a shift from a focus on scientific production and high-tech spillovers to a focus on diversity of channels and mechanism of knowledge transfer where modes of tacit knowledge becomes relevant. Secondly, a shift in the territorial scale consisting in a change of focus from the national level to the regional level and more recently to the local level. Both processes imply a changing role in university's mission where new actors and institutional dimensions mediate the process of knowledge transfer. In fact, there are several models of university roles implying different spatial aspects of interactions and different mechanisms for university engagement as well. The economic role of the universities. Universities have often been described as the driving force behind growth as they generate educational capacities, skills and research results that are relevant to innovation, particularly in certain industrial sectors. The understanding of the specific channels and mechanisms by which this contribution occurs is far from homogeneous. The universities were considered as factories of knowledge whose impact was primarily driven by knowledge spillovers. The students or learners on the university industry links assumed a collaborative role where universities were seen as privileged partners for the larger companies appropriating technology strategic to their activity. Later, it was acknowledged a variety of bidirectional links and processes of knowledge sharing with a diversity of firms. In recent times, the entrepreneurial mode of universities has been encouraged through organizational arrangements and also intermediary actors such as technology, transfer offices, science parks and license structures. The innovation studies tend to see universities as boundary spanning institutional nodes whose influences are shaped by the specific regional innovation systems in which they are embedded and they function. The university began to be seen as an actor capable of diluting distances between the various nodes of innovation system where it belongs. The civic and social role of universities. The social roles of universities include are combating social exclusion, promoting health and education among the disadvantaged groups. There is increasingly greater recognition that universities can and should do more to help solve social problems in areas where they are located. This could positively contribute to the research agendas practiced by higher education institutions, the learning experiences of the students, in addition to direct benefits to local stakeholders. The research studies on the social roles are not appropriately connected with the economic orientation of universities and are largely absent in the literature on knowledge based development. However, there is an explicit trend since the late 1990s in linking universities with local communities. Prestigious universities with important economic endowments such as Penn and Harvard in foreign countries are strengthening their agreements with city governments and making their program more visible. International organizations and collectives of universities are also playing an important part in setting the agenda, for instance, the Compact Campus in USA. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) conducted international reviews on the roles of higher education institutions in regional development, clearly underlying the roles of higher education institutions are not only economic but social, cultural, environmental, and are usually grounded in the local sites. As a result, there is a growing information on community and social engagement, mainly through case studies, reports, and several specialized programs related to community services. Conditions for knowledge transfer at local level. The approaches aiming to understand the impact of universities holistically were not significant in social research. A general problem is related to disentangling the scales of possible impacts of universities. In urban context, some uses of the universities acquire a more important meaning. Firstly, some dimensions of knowledge transfer are more evident, such as social services, health, and community empowerment. The civic role of the university is perhaps more demanding at local level. The presence of the university may be a connection with global knowledge and may be useful for resolving their productive problems. Secondly, the space concentration implies a different set of relationships with the municipal governments and local actors such as citizen collectives, associations, etc., with distinct expectations. These interactions are also more direct and required a process of adaptation. From a policy point of view, an important problem has to do with the institutionalization of links. It is well known that universities and research centers occupy distinctive institutional fields that are often far removed from local areas of action. Universities are the sources of economic and social progress for the territorial context in which they are located. Increasingly, higher education institutions are expected to play functions to stimulate the dynamics of regional and city development. However, studies addressing the uses of universities are highly diverse, reflecting universities' multiple roles and the variety of effects they produce. Innovation studies usually focus on the national or the regional level, while studies on urban development do not usually consider higher education institutions to be significant actors in urban regeneration. Although there is currently a tendency to link uses of universities with the local level, however, this remains an incoherent area of study. It is necessary to have mechanisms enabling communication of local governments with the university in a way that is based on similar cognitive frameworks and cultural practices. This requires the ability to capture and use knowledge from university, which relies on the availability of professionals who can perform tasks tailored to the specific processes of regeneration taking place in each urban environment. The qualification of human resources may require identification of specific technological capabilities in different areas. These are associated with declining industrial sectors on which actions are to be focused, or the scientific university output in domains such as the humanities and social sciences in those environments with opportunities to use cultural resources as assets for regeneration. The professional training and awareness of people working in local government on issues like urban regeneration, technological performance, commercialization of university research and technology are key issues. It is then the task of the university to train such people and fill these gaps. A clear connection emerges between the governance needs and provision of targeted training by universities in key areas of governance and development. Friends, let us now conclude this lesson. The lack of local government jurisdiction in education provision is a key issue. While the local autonomy does not guarantee positive changes, greater city level autonomy is a prerequisite for strong city level ownership of urban reforms that incorporate education strategies. Without adequate integration of education sector needs in urban development planning, the sustainable development agenda will not come to completion. To remedy this exclusion, there needs to be more appreciation from city administration and planners of the education's role in progressive urban development. Thank you.